Let's get down to business. Give you one more night to get this. We've had a million nights just like this. So let's get
Okay, welcome to another episode of Department Spotlight. We are joined here by the Learning Resource Department. So it's early in the morning, so we appreciate them joining us here before school starts. So we want to bring you on. We bring on every department just to get to know a little bit more about the department themselves, and then especially some individual teachers. Obviously, we can't bring all 35 of you in here. So we got a mixture of some segments of your department. So if you don't mind going around introducing yourself, let me talk about how long you've been at Normal West and how long you've been teaching and what you do specifically.
Okay, my name is Kristy Fairfield. I teach moderate to severe level 2-3 program. I've been teaching for 31 years and 30 years at Normal West.
Mm-hmm. All right.
All right, I'm Laura Stephenson. I am the building chair for special education now. I co-teach U.S. history right now, and I teach vocations, but I've pretty much taught everything in my time here. This is my 25th year teaching, and 23 of those have been here at Normal West.
All right. Wow.
I'm Modglin. I'm a speech-language pathologist, and I have been a speech pathologist for 34 years and have been at West for 23 years and work here. And then we also support some of the other schools around, so Regional Alternative School and the Bridge Academy as well.
Okay. One thing that I have noticed since I've been a teacher is, it's almost like certain departments, it takes a special person to do it. So let's start here. What inspired you to get into special education?
A couple of things happened in high school. I had a teacher who was very inspirational as far as motivating kids and getting them to learn. Mm-hmm. And then my locker was right next to the special education classroom, which was the life skills program.
And you were a Pontiac, right?
I was, yes.
I did Best Buddies there, too.
Did you?
I did,
okay,
yes.
That was way before.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned that, Best Buddies. I never saw the kids that were in that classroom. Mm-hmm. I knew they were doing some interesting things and learning some interesting things like cooking, life skills program, but they weren't integrated. Mm-hmm. They weren't out in the school. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of my inspiration to want to learn more about that.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of always been my passion is the independent functioning, more of that life skills program, like what we have here at Normal West.
Okay, great.
For me, whenever I was in 8th grade, I got paired up with a 4th grade student in my school. I went to a little K-8 in Lincoln, Illinois, and I got paired up with this 4th grader who had dyslexia. And so they let me work with her and just try some different things. I was working with a special education teacher, kind of guiding this, but they kind of did this program where they let other students come in, and just seeing the growth that she had in that year that I got to work with her is really what, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, but that's what made it special ed.
Awesome.
My journey is a little different. I knew I wanted to be in education, so my undergrad was in elementary education. And then towards the end, when I was student teaching, I was offered to have a graduate assistantship and go on in my college path. And so I went and observed the school psychologist and the speech pathologist, areas that I would get a master's degree, but without having a whole lot of experience wouldn't, interfere with my future job opportunities. So I really enjoyed watching the speech pathologist and the environment in which she worked. It was at an elementary school, so it was a little different than what I do here at West. But I really liked being able to work in smaller groups, more one-on-one with students, and help support their speech and language needs to then carry over into the classroom. So started out that way. And then I did a little flip into the medical field in Pontiac as well. At St. James Hospital for around 11 years. I did the medical aspect of speech pathology, and then back here into the educational piece of speech pathology in 2003 here at West, and I have never left.
Cool. So, education's such a big bubble, obviously. And again, like I said, there's so many different segments to it. And I always tell people that, elementary education, for example, someone who wants to be in elementary education is completely different from somebody who wants to be in high school education. And then I think you can even break it down at the high school level too, the type of person it takes to be a social studies teacher versus a math teacher. So, as far as special education goes or learning resources, what type of person do you think fits the mold for what type of person do you have to be a part of your department, would you say?
A multitasker, patience, data-driven. What else?
You have to have we all have to have the ability to have rapport with students and build that relationship first to be able to really meet them where they're at and support their needs. And even more so, I think, in learning resource or special education, speech pathology, psychology, social work, all of those areas, because we are working with them on things that are hard. If I work with a lot of students for reading and spelling with a dyslexia profile here at West, and they don't like to read, they don't like to spell. So I've got to have a good relationship with them to be able to understand where they're at, support them, and help them understand why that's important. And that crosses all of the areas that we educate in the department. So really being able to connect with students and then build their academic skills from there.
Right. And I would say, too, you have to have, like, a wide knowledge base because, Kristy, we have the same degree, Kristy and I do, but we do wildly different jobs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I love that you do what you do,
It's
and I would
functional.
struggle
Yeah.
to do what she does.
Yeah.
Right? It's just the way that it works. But also, just like in that LR world, we could end up teaching literally anything. So you have to have the ability to either already know how to do it or to learn it quickly. We cover everything from life skills to, we have students who are in AP classes who we have to be able to help. And our certificates cover every age, elementary all the way up.
3 to 22.
Right.
We probably know more about the business curriculum, the culinary arts curriculum, the social studies, science, math, and English curriculum than
Probably
most
learned a lot
teachers.
Yourselves.
Absolutely. Yes.
Like, this is interesting.
Yeah, I did not know a lot about welding, but I know a few things now.
And I don't know much about, college bound and things like that, but I know more about what to find for kids post high school as far as the work world or volunteer work or things like that.
Yeah,
they're
that's
gonna go
awesome.
into.
Yep. Something that I guess this is kind of for you, Laura, but any of you can answer this too, is, your department's a lot different than ours. I mean, we've had the same teachers now for like 13 years, like there hasn't been much turnover. But obviously when you have a department of 35 people, it's a natural occurrence. So we were discussing beforehand, just the amount of turnover that you have. What challenges does that create?
We talked. I was talking with one of our first year teachers yesterday, and we counted up. I think there's 14 new people in our department in the past 3 years, which is a lot. And so that's most whole departments in this building, and it's not for us. I think the biggest challenges are just we're constantly trying to get people up to speed. Constantly having to go back and most people know how to do this. So remembering that we can't just assume that of our newer teachers. Because there are some of us who've been here a really long time. And some of these things are just automatic for us, but they're not for our newer staff. It's just one of those things. Like one of our tests this afternoon, I discovered earlier, I guess just a week or two ago, that some of our new teachers didn't even know that they were supposed to be putting in their CPDUs into ISB. So it's going to be going
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
teaching them how to do that this afternoon.
Yeah.
During some of our department time.
Yeah.
Which is something that we all just kind of take for granted. Like we just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the more technical stuff.
Right.
Behind the scenes. Yeah.
And at the same time, they bring some energy and positivity and new ideas and things that some of us that have been around 20 years or so can learn from and feed off of as well. So there are challenges, but definitely some strengths to that.
Yeah. And obviously, you know, a big part of why a lot of us get into teaching is, other than the money, is the rewarding aspect of it. And you all, I know, probably have that more than most teachers, if I'm being honest. So can you talk about just your experience of the rewards working with children with diverse needs?
I feel like I get involved a lot more with the families.
Yeah.
I really kind of become part of my family even, to a point where I go to the Special Olympics and see kids compete and just to see them be successful there. Also, I will do respite for some parents who are single parents. They need care, you know, they can't leave their child home alone, and just to see them also in my home then doing what I've taught them in the classroom. It's rewarding to see what they've learned. The littlest things are huge for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
The littlest steps that they take. But
Yeah, I've seen a lot of teachers in your department with them in the summers at the pool and stuff, you know, which is completely different from me. I'm like, I want to be as far away from you as possible in the summer.
I think similarly with Kristy is we see our students from freshman year through graduation. Typically, I work with the same students throughout their journey through high school, and Kristy does as well. So that growth that you mentioned, you know, it's just really cool to see how they come in kind of a frightened 14-year-old freshman and then blossom into somebody that's ready to move on to independent living or college or a career. So and then it's really neat to hear back from them or see them out in the community. And
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, I do love that part too.
Yeah, I would say recently I have really been enjoying when we get to dismiss students from services. There for a long time, I felt like it never happened. But in the past few years, we've had quite a few students who have made big enough gains that they don't need us anymore. And to me, that's one of the greatest parts is whenever we can look at a student and look at a family and say, like, they don't need us, right? They're doing awesome. Like, they're going to do amazing things in their future. And you know, I mean, these are families who probably never thought that would happen.
Yeah.
Right. So it's always, to me, a huge celebration whenever we get to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that there's a misunderstanding by the world and particularly maybe high school students about what it means to be in special education or have an IEP or need assistance like that. Yeah. And I do want to, you know, say, and it echoes what Laura was saying about dismissal, is that these students, for the most part, the students that we work with have normal cognitive ability. So they're as smart as anybody else. And in order to qualify for our services, there just has to be a difference in some area where that particular area is more difficult for learning. So maybe reading is more difficult, maybe comprehension, maybe math calculation or math reasoning, maybe it's writing. Those are the areas that are weaker, but they are smart, great students. And a lot of students sitting next to you in high school, you know, you wouldn't know that they need that extra support. And then there are students with cognitive or IQ differences such as what Kristy works with. And then if you get to know them, you know, they all have fantastic personalities and really unique characteristics that make them a super great special person. So I think that we've made progress from years and years ago when the students were in a separate room and you didn't see them out and throughout the building to where we are today. But I do hope that, you know, that term special education, it doesn't have a negative feeling as much now and that continues to change over time.
And a shout out to Jim Rumps because he embraces our class, our kids. He brings classes into our classroom to buddy up with them and play games, and he invites some of our students into his classroom too to
That's awesome.
Interact with their classes.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Today's podcast sponsor is Select Screen Prints. Select Screen Prints has been in partnership with Normal West for over 25 years, providing quality Wildcat apparel at an affordable price. Choose Select Screen Prints for all of your custom t-shirt, sweatshirt, and apparel needs. They now offer digital printing, which allows for fast turnaround and excellent quality at prices that are less expensive than most online apparel companies. Select Screen Prints is the choice in Bloomington Normal area and beyond. Check them out for your next apparel order.
So I think one thing maybe a lot of people may not know about your job is it involves a lot of paperwork. Can you talk about that? And then also just a question that I have, and maybe it's more or less than I thought, but it does seem like there's always ever-changing state and federal regulations that kind of go along with special education. Can you talk about that piece of your job, which is also unique compared to regular ed? So
Yeah, there's always been paperwork, and I'll let Laura talk a little bit more. But when I think the three of us started 20 plus years ago, the paperwork was, well, first of all, it was on a triple form that was stuck together, and you had to press hard enough so it showed through. But there were, maybe 5 or so pages to that. And now the federal and the state governments do add paperwork very regularly, which adds to the requirements that we have to not only complete in the paperwork, but do assess with the students, talk with the students about, such as transition. There's like 3 pages, I think, of transition pages now that we have a legal responsibility to get them ready for their next steps after high school. That didn't used to be the case. We were responsible for what happened in high school. And the parents and community were responsible for the other. But now we have to help with that. So you can talk more about that.
I remember going from triplicate form, and I think we've had 4 different IEP systems since I've been here. IEPs are those legal documents that we have to write.
Stands for Individualized Education Plan, and that's what's legally required.
And like Peg said, they were smaller.
Mine are close to 100 pages.
Oh my gosh.
Some can be pretty involved.
And how often are you
Annually.
To update it? Annually?
But each semester we have to update their goals, objectives, look at the data and see where the progress is.
Wow.
So we're documenting what we're working on and how they're progressing so that we modify and change if things aren't improving. And I think ours are probably an average of 30 pages.
Yeah, I would say they're probably closer to 30 pages.
Yeah.
Not the 100. That's also, we have more students as well as a result, right? Because it would not be fair to have the same number of students that you have to write IEPs for when you're writing 100 pages versus 30, right? I mean, it's a very different world and expectation. But the paperwork is big for everyone.
And our students also do self-directed IEPs where they run the meeting, talk about themselves rather than us talking about them in front of them. They talk about their strengths, their weaknesses, things they want to do for their future. So rather than the student making the PowerPoint, I also do that as well, along with sitting down with them, doing their transition assessment, finding out their interests, where they want to be post-high school. If they want to live alone, do they want to live in a group home? Do they want to stay with family?
Yeah.
So that's added to the IEP as well.
Interesting.
And then depending upon their age, you also have to coordinate with outside agencies to get them to the meetings, right, to talk about post-secondary planning. That could be DRS or
Department of Rehabilitative Services and formerly Mark First Lifelong Access.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some that come in contact with us.
Right. And sometimes I have to get college representatives there.
Jeez.
You
Or
know, so
Midwest
that's
Technical Institute, they come
Right.
regularly to,
Yeah.
to talk about the services.
I had no idea.
A lot of coordinating.
So other than that, not much you have to do.
and teach all the classes on top of it.
There you go. All right. Okay, so last quick question. Outside of school, just to decompress, what do you all like to do?
Golf
For
badly.
hobbies.
Golf badly. Exercise. Hang out with friends. Family.
Spent a lot of time with my kids, but we really enjoy traveling.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time planning trips.
Any
So that-
vacations planned?
Yeah, this summer is going to be the New England cities trip.
Oh, cool. I've never been up there, so that would be one of mine also.
Some lobster
I'd like to
rolls.
plan.
Yeah, we'll be spending 2 weeks exploring
Cool.
some of the
Fun.
cities
Yeah.
and hitting a lot of historical sites on this one. We
Very
usually
cool.
do a lot of nature, but
Yeah.
lots of history this time.
Awesome.
I like to spend a lot of time with family, friends. We have a No Cook Friday group that we go out. It's our NCF. Nobody
that.
cooks. We pick a restaurant and we all meet there.
There's plenty of them to go to
Yes,
here. All
and
right.
we're planning a couple weddings right now. So
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, that's it for this week's podcast. Thank you all for joining. And I know, again, I speak for all regular ed teachers. Thank you so much for all that you do. The school would not be the same without you. So
Thanks
keep
for
doing
having
great
us.
things.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.